You know, back when I was 19 years old, I was given the best piece of advice that I've ever received. I was told, Daryl, when you stop fighting, the fighting stops. Let's talk about that. Thank you for joining When I Stop Fighting, the podcast. My name is Daryl Dittmer. Today I'm joined by Dr. Bob Beare. Bob is a dad, an artist, a psychologist, and, my favorite, a recovering human. Bob is the founder of deepwatersrecovery.org, healing and recovery programs, bobbeare.com, empowerment programs, and the experiential facilitator workshop certification program. He is a 3-time best-selling author and has been a leader in the mental health field for decades. Welcome, Bob. Good to see you, man.
Thank you, Daryl. Good to be here with you. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
I don't look forward to all the things that I've got scheduled, but man, hanging out with you is always juicy.
I like that word. Thank you. No, I appreciate it, man. I feel the same way. You know, we connect, we talk on the phone, on your space, you know, we connect there sometimes. And every single time we talk, there's something that just very much resonates, which is a really cool thing. And I don't get that with too many people.
Yeah. Just for the folks that are listening, we just checked in for the last 20 minutes and we kept saying, wow, we got to do this podcast. God damn it. We got and we both talked just as we talked about recovery. We talked about our dads. We kept saying, wait a minute, this would be good for the podcast. So we both had a little tear together. And so that's very warm, man. I'm just glad to be here with you. And I don't know what you have planned here. What's the topic? What is the topic?
I have no freaking idea, but you know what? I think we should talk about the journey, and I think we should talk about recovery, and then however that happens, we'll just take it and go.
Okay, man. Thanks.
What do you think? Yeah. You know, the journey. I talked to a lot of people about the journey, and the spaces that we're in, and I don't mean X spaces, I mean the people that we hang around, the people that we talk to, the people that we interact with. I mean, you know, my wife, one of my boys, like they're about the journey and you know, resonating with the journey and what the journey entails and what we need to do to move ourselves forward. And, you know, sometimes we move backward and sometimes it's difficult and sometimes it feels easy. And sometimes, you know, we're excited about what's next. And sometimes like, holy crap, we might be scared about what's next. You know, there's all these things that go into the journey. And I love that that's the journey because like the word that you mentioned early on, it makes it juicy, right? It makes it something that we can talk about and we can relate to and we can tell stories about. And that's, I think, what helps others is our stories and how we move through and the things that we do and the choices we make. And so that's probably enough for us to talk about 17 hours straight, but we'll try to keep it 35 or 45 minutes.
Yeah. I've changed my approach to my newsletter. I used to try to impart important information about addiction and trauma to these people that need to know about. And they do. You know, the world's a shit show. The world does need some information on addiction and unhealed trauma, which is causing most of the explosions, literal and metaphorical, in the world. Right. I'm very clear about it. So, but I've gotten so much good feedback. I just tell my story and then put a little bit of context to it in terms of, you know, some of the things I picked up on the journey that I've stopped using journey, by the way, because you know why? Because AI uses journey and I'm against that guy. Who is that guy, by the way, that keeps, whenever I give him some of my writing, he turns my writing into a kind of writing that uses the term journey, embrace, I can't think of the other words right now, but words that I don't use that much. But I know what you mean when you say journey. And you know what I mean by it. We mean the growth path, the becoming a healthier human, taking a look at the shit that we don't want to look at within us, right? You and I have been in train wrecks, metaphorical, and maybe, I don't know, literal, but and we've hit brick walls, metaphorical, and I don't know if I ever slammed
literal.
Yeah, maybe you. Yeah. So we've had some crashes and burns, man, in our relationships, in our jobs, in our ability to function. Losses. I've had deaths that just woke me up on. So one of the things when you're older, you've had a lot of shit happen, and it's either going to wake you up or it's going to force you toward more self-medication to try to numb ourselves out. I know you and I are, still we're not cured. That's why we continue to go to certain meetings to keep ourselves awake to the fact that we have a thing called being human, which inherently means that we have things that are unconscious to us. The 95% of the things that we do say, our behaviors are run by 95% unconsciousness. We know so little. And I know what you mean by the journey. Let's find out more and live more consciously. Would that be one way to frame the journey?
Yeah, it is. I agree. Yeah. And I never see, I'm not that attuned with the AI thing. So I didn't know that journey pissed you off.
Yeah. It's more of a joke.
Yeah. No, I hear you and embrace. I mean, there were certain words for me that just sort of hit me, and I'm like, because we both came up quite a long time ago, I would say, in terms of the sobriety / recovery road. I'll maybe use something other than journey. But when we were coming up,
You're the AI guy. You're the AI guy that I was talking.
I'm not that smart.
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
No, it's all good. There were certain words that weren't around in terms of the way they're used today. When somebody talks about trauma, I'm like, well, yeah, I got in a nasty car wreck and split my head open and broke my arm and stuff when I hit a brick wall. And, that happened. That was trauma, I think. I don't look at it in the way that it's looked at today. So, I've been trying to shift the way I think about that. And certain things that have changed in terms of, they haven't changed in terms of how we experience them and what goes on in here and in here. It's just that the vernacular has changed. And I've had some catching up I've needed to do on my path to try to, understand, like, what are they talking about that we used to talk about 40 freaking years ago? A lot of it's changed.
Yeah. Well, it's a big topic. One of the things you and I talked about is the transition of the use of the word recovery over the 30 years or whatever amount of years it's been for you. I don't know, but there was a time when recovery meant a very specific thing. Of course, recovery means just generally, the 12-step world stole that from the normal vernacular, which is, recovery and coming back from an injury, right? In a hospital, right? Generally, that's what people, but then there was, when we're talking about the anything other than that, the word recovery used to mean 12-step recovery. It almost exclusively. It did not mean that I've been doing some breath work with a person who has a somatic, some kind of a thing after their name that says somatic, or a yoga class is I'm going to my recovery yoga class. It did not mean that. And I saw you laugh just now. I'm laughing a little inside too, but not really.
Yeah.
Because it actually points to, who gives a shit what they call it. We're old dog learning old dogs learning new tricks. It's okay. Call it whatever you want to. But actually, I would say that there's way more consciousness about trauma, if we want to use the term trauma today, than there was back in the day. Of course, it means, but I think the word turns people off. You're not the only one that says, "What trauma? What are you talking about? It's not trauma." When your dad yelled at you a couple of times, you're telling me you got trauma. Your parents worked hard and they were never home. Oh, too bad, Petunia. There's some truth in that. However, for me, the whole blame game of our childhood and our parents and our caregivers and all that, it's a process. We need to probably go through it. It's not that useful, but it's an awakening, right? Wait a minute. This shit happened to me and it affected me. Sometimes those of us that are from good families, in quotes, right? I call it conditioning. I'm trying to get away from the trauma word because people have so much attached to that. But we were conditioned to be a certain way, and then we get to be a certain age and we're still doing it. Why am I trying to please her? Oh, it was mom I was trying to please, and I'm still trying to please her, and she's gone. What am I doing? All right, so that's a form of conditioning. You can call it trauma if you want. And it's sometimes really subtle, especially for those of us from good families, right? Because we don't think it's trauma. We don't think we're just doing our life until we hit a wall, right? And we have two roads to take when we hit that painful, when she leaves, when the job ends, when we are no longer able to function because of our self-medicating the shit show. We call it complex trauma, right? The original trauma, whatever happened, or the conditioning, and then we learn to take drugs, alcohol, sex, love, work, gambling, on and on and on and on. We found ways to medicate the fact that we were off track from who we are because we started pleasing our original caregivers, because that's what kids do. And then by the time, and then when we're 40, we're still doing it, but we're so far off of our trajectory that we have to medicate ourselves to even function in this life. So we're living at best a half a life, right? That's where recovery comes in. We start the journey, the journey back to our original selves before we gave ourselves away. That's what healing our conditioning, healing our trauma, healing our domestication, which is what the Ruizes call it, right? I guess that we can call it recovery. That's a form of recovery, but somewhere along the line, you better stop injecting shit, whatever you're injecting. And I don't care what you call it, but I've found that I need to be in a circle of other people who injected the same shit, whether it's sex, love, codependency, work, cocaine, alcohol. I have to be in those rooms with other people that are doing it, that have a program. So anyway, that's a lot. It's a big topic. I've gotten off the bandwagon of being resentful that people use recovery for just about everything these days. But, who cares?
Yeah. No, it's all good. I get a little kick out of it, and probably because I don't quite understand it. Like I don't understand what they're referring to. Like you mentioned complex trauma. I've never known what that is.
Yeah.
So that's taken your original trauma and then drowning it all in all the other horse shit to try to feel better.
That's exactly right. Well, it's part of it. Shit happens to us. That's just data. I mean, nobody can argue with that. When we were kids, our parents were not perfect. I've been doing this for 35 years, thousands of families. I think literally, many, many thousands of hours and many thousands of people I've worked with. I've not run into a perfect family yet. It's a little bit of a joke. It could be a Seinfeld routine, but it's true. And there's dysfunction, and the dysfunction affected us. It put us on a trajectory, some of it good, some of it beautiful. I mean, I'm an actor. My mom gave me that. She saw that in me and blessed it. It's beautiful. It's okay. And then there was also some other shit. Right? My dad wanted me to be tough. That was the highest priority. My mom wanted me to be to take care of her and other, be the caretaker and many things, and to be the entertainer, and that's your value. There's many little things like that that did not look like getting beat every day or being sexually abused, or I didn't the thing the thing about people who've been severely abused, at least they know where their wound is. They know what they need to work on. Some of the rest of us who had more of a subtle kind of wounding, it takes a big wake-up call later on, because here's what you were just saying. We get hurt, and then we're off track from who we are, right? We're still trying to please them unconsciously. That's the way trauma works. We're still trying to please our caregivers, even as teenagers, and then young adults, and then middle-aged. And eventually you hit a wall, because we've gotten isn't that, I think it's geometry that would say that. I'm off track, and I keep going, I get further off track and further off track, and I have to medicate myself more and more and more to survive, to let alone thrive. Eventually you're going to hit a wall. Some people can go their whole life and not have 1 ounce of consciousness about that, but then there's other lucky folks like us that almost died from our shit, right? From our complex trauma, and the medicating that we did, that made us hit that brick wall, which is complex. That's what they're talking about. We complicated this original, maybe subtle trauma year after year after year. It's very complicated or complex. But the solution is simpler. I'll just say, anybody who's wondering, well, what about 12-step recovery? It's not very trauma informed. They don't know how to heal trauma in there. You're exactly right. And that is not the purpose of AA. AA is trying to keep people alive. It's like, you're not going to get too much encouragement over there to talk about your childhood wounds. It's not what that's there for. It's there for a very specific other set of purposes. And that's to stop the behavior. That's the first thing. But the main thing is to develop a character. To develop a program where we have some integrity in our lives, and try to put it back together, and hang out with other people who are trying to live a good life. We're not trying to necessarily heal trauma, but these days it's in the vernacular, and there's much more opportunity and awareness that there's another level. The ultimate relapse prevention is to heal your trauma, or your conditioning, or your domestication, whatever you want to call it. Because it's poking at us from beneath at all times, and it will run the show and make our substance recovery, or our behavioral recovery. It'll make it much more difficult if we still have unresolved trauma.
Yeah, I look at it like, if I'm not, you mentioned trajectory a couple times. If I'm not doing this, if I'm doing that, and even if I get rid of the substance,
yeah,
I can still be heading south, even if I get rid of the substances. So I've got to learn how to head north. And that's what the 12 steps did for me. And one of the terms you use, which I love, last time we spoke, was coughing up the hairballs. And the 12 steps, by going through the 12 steps and opening to a different way of living, and living with some gratitude and some integrity, and doing what resonates inside me as the right things, those hairballs come up, man. They come up. And so even though it's not, for me, even though it's not necessarily discussed as conditioning or domestication or trauma, like, that stuff comes up, it starts bubbling. And I told you last time, there's times when something little will hit me, and I'll just bawl. I'll be watching freaking America's Got Talent. Somebody does really well, and I'm so, like, happy for them, and I'll just start bawling. Or I'll sit outside on my deck and I'm quiet, or I'll be meditating and it's quiet, and something about my parents comes up, and And it can be a wonderful gratitude thing, or it can be sorry about that thing.
Right.
So I feel like the more you do the work, the more the hairballs come up. Do you find that to be true?
Well, yeah. And we all define, quote, the work, close quote, differently.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. 12-step recovery is Dr. Carl Jung's philosophy in a popular expression. AA is the popular expression of Jung's work. Jung was very involved in the origins of AA, as you know, and it's throughout all of the other 12-step programs, there's like 50 of them, and there's hundreds of thousands of millions of people around the world that are accessing and don't even really know that it's Jungian, right? And what I mean by that is there's so many quotes of Jung that are so relevant. It's we're going to anything that we don't look at within us it will show up outside of ourselves, and we will just call it fate. It's a close to his quote. In other words, we'll just say, "Nah, that's just happening to me. It's bad shit. The world's doing it to me." No, I have a part in this, and that is the biggest thing that 12-step recovery does for us, right? We begin to own our side of the street. And what happens with that is a certain vulnerability starts to emerge. We start to unscrew the cap that has been so tightly down. Like, you're a tough guy. You're from a long line of tough guys like me, right? We had that jar screwed down so tight.
Screwed down hard, man.
You'd have to pass it around 7 men before you'd find a guy that could finally open that thing. And the thing about owning our side of the street and slowly starting to say, wait a minute, I may have some things to look at within me. Maybe it's not just this rotten world, right? And the steps slowly move us through being able to surrender a little bit this tight lid that we've got on everything. And of course, the grief is going to start leaking out, and it's going to scare us at first, right? It's like, what the fuck is this? I don't cry, So, but you keep doing it. And then after we get some sobriety and we've worked through the steps with a sponsor who has walked us through, we've done a bunch of writing to talk through some of the things that have happened in our life. We owned our side of the street, which is, by the only way, the side of the street that we have much influence over. That other side of the street, most of us hit the wall because we were trying to manage the other side of the street, which we don't have any. So once we come over and get our attention on ourselves, it's vulnerable. And if we get some sobriety and our nervous system begins to calm down because we're no longer trying to fix everybody else, we're no longer putting as much substances in our body as we were, right? And then we have the opportunity to really work on the underlying issues. And I know you've been doing some of that, but not as much as me. I've made that more of my life. I'm in all the 12-step programs. I was listening to the 12-step programs that I have attended, and I think I was up to like 14 or something. And the person, Kim, who I think you might have met, who's my sidekick at the Deep Waters trauma healing workshops, she was like, what? Wait a minute. I'm going to start writing these down. She was like writing down all the programs. For me, it's just, I don't see it as I go there because I'm fucked up. I see it as a lifestyle. This is my lifestyle, and I'm so grateful. It's what I call my family of choice. I've found a rhythm. I hang out with people that are owning their side of the street. We're getting out of each other's side of the street. I don't hang out with people that are on, like, getting all in my shit. Or that are expecting me to get into their shit. Right. So that's what recovery's done for me, man.
No, that's great. That's beautiful. You've brought up a couple times the concept of blame. And I just, I find that to be so critical. And as I continue to traverse this path, it's fascinating how things show up in me and I discover more about myself, but you get a better picture of everything that goes on. And now I recoil from, oh, it's their fault, or it's their fault, or it's that fault, or it's politics' fault, or whatever, or it's religion's fault. It's nobody's freaking fault, but it is somebody's responsibility, and the responsibility is mine. And that path goes on forever. Like I can be on the responsibility, my responsibility path, till they're kicking dirt in my face. I mean that when I'm laying down and they're kicking dirt in my face.
Yeah.
And never reach the end. I mean, it's just, and that's the part of it for me that is so rewarding and wonderful. And I don't do it, like you said, I don't do it because I feel like I'm fucked up. I do it because I love doing it, and there's just so much more to learn and so much more to ingest. You talked about so much there. I just, the blame thing for me is something that it's so incredibly unproductive. It's negative productive.
You said you recoil from it. You said it's like a red flag now. It used to be our most fun thing, right? You know what we call that in 12-step recovery? It's the what's the quote? Maybe it's the greatest offender, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do. I don't remember the exact quote, but yes.
But you know the word that I'm sneaking up on? Resentments.
Oh, yeah.
That's
the killer. That's the killer.
It is the killer, and it's a drug. They don't talk about it like that in the big book or in the rooms so much, but I do. I was addicted to my resentments. It's a chemistry change that happens when I'm on that rotten son of a bitch that did that to me. God damn it. Oh, I can taste it. It's an actual physical change in my body when I'm on that resentment horse. And while I'm doing it, I am not looking at myself in any way. And therefore, I am not growing in any way. So he might be a rotten son of a bitch. He might be. And how is that relevant to me at all? Because here's the other thing. I've chosen this guy in my life in some way or another, or I've chosen her, or I've chosen that job, or I've chosen this shit show of a life that now my car's breaking down. Now I'm blaming it on the car. The blaming thing. It's usually part of the thing when people first come in and they start getting sober and they're really vulnerable. And it's like, oh, they did it to me, right? Actually, it's a little bit of progress for a little while. And then it's time to all right, you're going to own your side of the street. Sometimes people don't stick around. That's one of the reasons people love to say that 12-step recovery isn't very effective. Yeah. It has a high recidivism rate. Oh no, it's no good. Yeah, right. It has 100% success rate for people that stick around and do the work. And that's rare. It is. It's like 1 in 10 probably stick around and do the work. Yeah, it's bad. That's not great. It doesn't promise that it's going to do anything for anybody that doesn't do the work. If you do the work,
not supposed to. Yeah.
It's not supposed to. Right. It's a complete misnomer when people say, because what they're talking about is a guy that went to AA, looked at his shadow and said, let me the fuck out of here, and never came back. And they count him as that AA was unsuccessful with him.
Right. Well, what does it say right before it gets into the promises? If we are painstaking about this phase of our development.
Yeah. Which is actually in the 9th step. This is way into the program. If you've made it this far, you got a chance. But if you go to this next step, which is amends, right? Which is a lot of people unconsciously bail from the work because they can see that coming. I'm going to have to fully own my side of the street and even make amends to some of these people that I'm resentful toward. Smart people can see that coming. And that's why smart people don't have a lot of success in AA. Creative people do. But people that are like really analytical, they can see, and then it's like, oh, no, that's not for me.
Yeah. My wife just Christina. She recently bought the big book and bought the 12 and 12, and she read the big book and she's getting through the 12 and 12. And she's a very analytical person, but it's changing. She's changing. She's hit a few walls herself. I mean, she's not one of us, but it doesn't have to be one of us to hit walls. I mean, everybody hits walls, I think.
Yeah.
And
I didn't even hit a wall around alcohol. I just like you guys. That's bullshit. I've just barely missed a bunch of walls.
Right.
But it took me a while to come into AA. The love stuff is what almost killed me, the sex and love. And so I started out there, and then, I've just decided there's wisdom, but AA is the old wisdom. Yeah. And the big book that we're talking about, any of your listeners that are new to this, it's the main text for Alcoholics Anonymous that most of the other 12-step programs use as well. Sometimes they replace the word alcohol with love or codependency or sex or whatever it is, just because it's so incredibly well written. Now, somebody might read it first time through because it's written in the 30s, and it has sort of a poetic. To me, at first, it was archaic. And when I didn't really want to surrender to it, I thought it was archaic and poorly written. And now, after time, there's magic in those words, man. They came out of there was like miraculous stuff happening with those guys that wrote that. I don't know. It's how that happened, because they're just a bunch of assholes like you and me. But something came through them at that time. The culture needed it, and now it's this giant movement around the world. But now the language is so warm to me when I hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I remember there's the doctor alcoholic addict story, right? Is that 449? I forget now, but might be around page 449. But he talks about having to, change his glasses and how he looks at things when he's talking about, how he saw his significant other. Like it's on me how I see people. It's on me how I respond. Those kinds of things. I never looked at it from a poetic perspective, but I do say to people all the time that read this stuff, I'm like, when they talk about, emotional, or they talk, it can mean spiritual. It can mean a number of different things now. We use different language now, just like we use different language now than when I first started coming around the 12-step tables. And I have to learn how to speak that language to whatever degree, because I understand it's all the same stuff. There's nothing new, it's not new. It's just we changed how we refer to it.
Yeah. I'm trying to look on page 449. I thought that was the 417, the acceptance quote, right?
Oh,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a big book thumper. I don't know for sure, but
I'm not either. Mine's in a box.
Yep.
Somewhere.
And here's the thing. We're ready for, you and I are talking about this openly. There's one of the traditions is we don't tell everybody we're in AA, right? And we're doing a little bit of that right now. We're telling everybody we're in AA. And there's a couple of reasons. It's the anonymity factor is important. We don't want people thinking that if they come to AA, they've suddenly got to tell everybody they're alcoholic. No, you don't have to tell anybody ever. And the other thing is, we don't want Daryl announcing to the world that he's an alcoholic in AA and then relapses and hits a bunch of brick walls, and it's not good for AA. It doesn't look good. So for the most part, we don't talk about this openly. And you'll notice a lot of celebrities say they're sober, but they're very careful to not necessarily say that it's in AA. However, if somebody really wants it, they'll come to them. And maybe some of your listeners, maybe they want some recovery, right? Maybe they'll come to you and we'll talk offline, because we've had, maybe you might describe it as the courage or the vulnerability to say, "Yep, I'm fucked up. Anybody else that's fucked up, you can call me." So it's absolutely how it is for me. I don't hide it anymore, but I also don't want to break that the beauty. I want to at least speak to the beauty of that anonymity thing that keeps it safe enough for people to always be able to find their way in.
For sure. No, and I agree 100%. My sponsor told me a long time ago, and it resonated with me. And I'll just say this because I want anybody who's listening, and also you, Bob. I don't say it to try to be important or anything like that. I say it because it got back to the origins of AA in the beginning, but my sponsor's sponsor was like the 57th dude in the program. His name was Ernie G. And my sponsor told me that the anonymity part stemmed from the biblical quote, I guess, of do your good works in secret so that your God or higher power may reward you openly.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it came from. Do your good works in secret. It wasn't to be like, oh, look at me, or
That's right.
oh, wow, I'm blah, blah, blah. It was just go do good work. And I'm 1,000% on board with that in terms of, helping people out. And
Yeah.
if anybody wants help, I'll give it to them in a second if they're willing to help themselves.
Well, that's the thing about the number one symptom of addiction. It's a little bit of a joke, but I think it's true. The top thing about addiction that makes it difficult to treat is the number one symptom is that we think we don't have it.
Mm.
There aren't many other maladies in the human world that has that as the first symptom.
Right.
I don't think I have this broken leg. I don't. My arm's been chopped off, and I deny that well, actually, there are other ones like bipolar disorder. People, what do you mean I'm bipolar? I'm just happy. There's some exceptions to it, but it is just so vivid that people don't think they have it, or they don't think they have it as bad as they actually have it. And that's the motivation for at least letting people know, hey, I have a solution over here. I'm not bragging about it. I'm a big mess. But if you want to come join a bunch of other people who are trying to figure it out, I know how to help you. So we have to be at least willing to say it out loud occasionally without, trying to say how proud we are of it or some shit. I'm not. I don't take chips. I stopped taking chips years ago. It's not a thing for me. I don't think they had chips in the early days. I don't know what that is, but don't get me started.
Well, I see them now, like online or social media or whatever, and they have all different kinds of colors and this and that. And I still have I haven't gotten one in 39 years probably, but I'd still have my 3-month, which is kind of a old chip, but I think they were brass, right? Or old brass looking things. Yeah. And, they weren't all that fancy, but they're fancy as hell now. But make sure you're going to stay sober if you're going to get yourself a fancy chip, just go do the shit you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Well, I send all my clients to a program. They come to me. There's a shit show in their life, right? I'm a therapist and a coach. They come to me and they either want to fix their wife, they want to fix their kid, or they're having problems themselves. And if I listen for 10 minutes, there's some addiction happening somewhere. Either they're living in the house with somebody that has an addiction and they're trying to manage it, or trying to, and I don't have to listen for very long to find out that the solution is not with a therapist. The solution is in a program. Whether it's alcohol, drugs, Al-Anon, which is the program for people who have people with an addiction in their family that's causing them trouble, right? They've been affected by alcoholism. Codependency, that's huge. It's and there's 2 different programs for that: adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families, which is for everybody on the planet. That's the only 12-step program that actually does focus on healing trauma. The rest of them are just stop the behavior. Jesus Christ, let's at least stop the bleeding, right? And
Right.
then we can heal what's underneath it. But you got to stop the bleeding and get your nervous system calmed down. And you know, that's what I do. Most of my clients wind up or get started in a 12-step program. I've considered myself a referral source more than anything else. Referring myself to myself, referring people back to themselves. I'm not their savior. There's nobody that's their savior. And then referring them to the appropriate community sustainable program. So,
Yeah. I mean, that's, I look at, I didn't look at it like this when I first got in, but I look at the 12 steps as a pathway to just finding a better way to live. Right. I mean, it's really so simple. I brought up the 12 steps to somebody the other day, and I think the first person that I had ever heard in my life that had not heard of the 12 steps. I'm like, dude, look it up. It can be useful, and
it's quite a talent these days to be able to not hear about it.
yeah. I mean, it's
that guy's good.
It's world changing. It's life changing. It's a lot of different things, but if you just take regular Joe off the street who doesn't have a problem with drugs or alcohol or sex or gambling or anything else, and you put the 12 steps in front of him and he works those steps, he won't because he hasn't felt the pain yet. But if he did with fervor, his life would improve.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Yeah. But there's a thing in the culture that I just ran into a few weeks ago with somebody who sent me a message on the side of because I talk about recovery stuff in that Wednesday space on Twitter. It's mostly not people in 12-step recovery, but I talk about it anyway. And then a few people have started a program because of that, not openly, but one person sent me a DM saying, I always thought 12-step recovery was a punishment for people. You go there as a punishment if you do bad things. What the fuck? I bet she's not alone thinking that. I think people think it's for the people that did bad things and live under bridges. It's for people that are really messed up. And, it's exactly the opposite. People in 12-step recovery are the healthiest people on the planet.
Yeah.
Most creative and the most spiritual, meaning, we're trying to get God through our counterfeit means, right? Until it really didn't work. And then now and what do we mean by God? What I mean is just trying to become more connected in this life. That's what I mean by God. Yeah. And there's a program for it. And I'm so grateful that I stumbled into it. I don't know. Back in the day, it wasn't quite as on every corner as it is today. It's very difficult to not have heard about it these days.
Yeah, for sure. How many opportunities do people get in their lives if they're not introduced to something like the 12 steps? I mean, you could go to Buddhism, right? The Eightfold Path. You could go to, there's very few things where you could say, okay, if I figure out how to do these things, then my life is going to get pretty freaking good. But the caveat is generally people have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired before they'll do that work.
Yeah. And there's a hierarchy of how they respond to that, right? I came to church. I thought and that's the easiest one. People think they can go and pray it away or some shit right. And unfortunately I ran into a priest who had 10 years of sobriety and was a licensed therapist also. Shit. I thought I could just pray it away. No, he sent me to a meeting and to another therapist. So, but the other thing is therapists. The therapists are fairly, these days, at least everybody's got a therapist. In fact, it's kind of like, oh, my therapist told me, my therapist. It's a thing these days. And people go with their addictions to a therapist. And for the most part, most of my colleagues will sit around for several years hearing people come in and say, we were drinking and arguing and it wasn't good. And the therapist will say something like, tell me more. Or, what I heard you say is that you were drinking and it's not, and it was like not very good. I don't operate like that. It's like, I'm not going to sit there and listen to that horse shit for very long. It's like, all right, let's get a program started. And some people don't last very long with me. Just, they want to go find a therapist that'll sit there with them in their misery perpetually. It's
Right.
just, to me, it's self-care. I can't do it anymore. So, but I also lose. My clients don't stay with me very long because I get them on the road to recovery. Right? They don't need me.
Is there a codependent nature that sort of happens if that therapy's like the brand
Are
of
you
therapy
kidding
you were
me?
talk about? I mean, that's what it is. It's codependency at some
Are
point.
you kidding me? Here's the metaphor I use. It's like, what profession would you say has the same skill set as a good criminal? It's a trivia question.
Well, I guess I have to say therapist.
No, I'll say cop. A cop.
Oh, there you go. Oh, okay.
Policemen
Yeah.
have to be a good criminal, have a good criminal
Sure.
mind to catch a criminal. All right,
Yeah.
so let's move over to the other conversation. So what kind of person needs to address a pathologically codependent person?
A pathologically codependent person.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which is all of my colleagues got into the healing professions to help others. I'm here to help others. Unconsciously, a lot of us did it to not look at our own shit. Right. It is a place to hide.
Yeah.
And most of my colleagues are not in 12-step recovery. They are not in a regular rhythm of self-examination.
Right. That's where it starts, right?
Yeah.
There's if you're going to change the world, the first thing you got to do is change yourself. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. That's how the freaking game works, man. Like, everybody's out there trying to shift this and shift that and talk about who should be or shouldn't be in charge or blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, no, you're missing it. If you really want to change the world, make yourself better. And then people will come to you potentially so you can help them if they're willing. That's how we change the world. It's a one person at a time thing.
Yeah. And in the rooms, as long as that seems to be the topic today, in those 12-step rooms, you don't get into the helping others straight off the street, right? A lot of people want to. They come in and they get sober for 3 days and suddenly they're wanting to tell the world how to do it, right? No, that is the very end of the road. That after a lot of intense work, then we carry the message to other people. But that's not something we can even do until we do a lot of self-examination.
Right. Take out a lot of garbage. Make sure we're keeping the street sweeper on our side of the street. I mean, there's a lot of shit. There's a lot of stuff that needs to get you need to be exposed to and then realize and then implement and then experience. And that's a process. I mean, it's a process over time.
I think the greatest quote of this thing was the most cliche thing that can be said, and that is, be the change you want to see. Isn't that a Gandhi thing? And when you said that's what we're up to here. Just do your own work. That's leadership. I used to think leadership was being a big shot with a title and telling people what to do. No. Now, I think a better form of leadership, I suppose, if you want to use that language, is just do what you love, get healthy, and then if you might look behind you and see people are following you and say, that's an interesting dynamic. and that's how healing works right there. Just do your own work, man. And trust that the rest of it will unfold exactly as it's supposed to. And I am going to say out loud that those of us that have gotten sober, and that there is a next step, a next level. And if we want to grow, we have to look at those underlying issues, that old shit that's still driving us, that's still, and You can hear in my language, you could probably pick out some things that you could pick. I don't know. I can't hear myself. That's the thing. We have to do it with each other. It's there's a colleague of mine online who's very much about telling people to help themselves. You can do it yourself. You don't need anybody else. And that is not proven true for me. I need people around me to give me feedback, to hear their story. Like with you, Daryl, I mean, you and I give each other feedback. Like, you still have a playing small thing, and you're apologizing for being this brilliant dude all the time. That is an old wound. That is an old wound, man. It's attractive up to a point. It's very humble, but then it's boring. And I have the same shit. My ways of being. I just got a huge wake-up call in this show. I'm a theater guy. Got this huge wake-up call about how I'm always trying to get impact and get people to respond to what I'm saying. The director kept saying, Bob, quit trying so hard. Bring your energy into your body. Oh my God, it makes me want to cry right now. How hard have I been working, Daryl? I've been working too fucking hard, man, to try to get mom and dad to see me.
Yeah.
That's where the next level of the work is, my brother. That was the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, very cool. No, I know I've spent many of my years since my late teens in trying to make especially my mom proud, and she's been gone for many, many years, but I know there's still an element of that in me. Yeah. There's no doubt. And my dad too, those nights, I know I mentioned this to you, but sometimes I'll go out on the deck and look at the stars and think about my parents and thank them. And there's this, and I'll just well up with emotion and I'll start bawling or whatever. And I will think about, that I want them to be proud of what I've turned into, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah, but, that's Mecca, isn't it? If you get, I had that. My dad, these weekends that I keep trying to get you to come and dance with me so you can co-lead it with me, but you got to go through it first. But anyway, I've been doing it for 25 years, these weekends. And it used to be men's weekends, these big old 100 men doing work. And my dad, when he was 81 years old, came to 2 of those in a row.
Oh, wow.
And I was the big leader running the whole show. He'd never seen me in any kind of role like that. And my dad was a solid dude, man. Everybody loved him, thought he was the shit, my dad. But he wasn't like that. He didn't care. People always wanted to get him to take a leadership role, and he just never was willing to step into that chaos. But anyway, he saw me in that way, and in front of 100 men, he said, "I'm proud of you, son. He said, I could never do something like this. I'm proud of you." Yeah, that was Mecca for me.
Yeah.
That went in, it's still in. The tears are still with me.
Yeah, really cool. That's really cool. Well, I am going to absolutely. I don't know what, I went on your website. I was going to sign up for one. I don't know if it was March or April, but I couldn't get signed up. And then, I was bummed, so I didn't text you.
Let me say those things for anybody else that's interested in. First of all, my online programs are bobbeare.com, BEARE.com. But that's the online stuff. But the healing work, the nonprofit, Deep Waters Recovery, and we run the Deep Waters Experience. It's a 3-day intensive recovery based, but we also do a lot of intense transformational work on those weekends. It's very powerful. Healing of the old wounds so that we can see more clearly. Most people come out of it saying it's the most powerful work I've ever done, which is why I'm still doing it. How old am I? Let me see. Let me look at myself in there. Yeah, I'm old. But I have an expert team that's running most of it. I just sort of watch the magic happen these days. But if you go to deepwatersrecovery.org, deepwatersrecovery.org, and all of the dates of the weekends are on the homepage. I think next one is next weekend, March 14th. But it's kind of late for that. But May is the next one. I think second week of May. I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, I told you I was going to do it in 25, so I will definitely do that, and I will look.
Nice.
It's interesting because we have so much stuff going on, right? And just like we're reminded when we see each other and we talk to each other, we're like, oh wow, Bob's a really freaking cool dude. I like him a lot. There's a resonance there with you.
Mm.
And it's a very cool thing. And I'm like, oh yeah, I got to go to Deep Waters Recovery because I told Bob I was going to. So
yeah.
So the reason I asked you to do this podcast is so I could remind myself to go to Deep Waters Recovery.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. I have the same thing with a few guys, not as much as I used to have 1,000 friends, I guess. I don't know if that's possible, but now I have a few connections with people, much, much calmer life. But, the people I really care about, like you, I have to set up things like a podcast or a weekend or going to a meeting or something that's structured, or we would never hang out. I mean, I don't know. Do some people just hang out? I don't know. I used to, but it's just not a thing anymore. I have to have a program or something.
Yeah, I think they do. But my circle has gone from, a huge circle to, a very small circle. And, but I also have the bonus of, having family where you are. And so anytime I go see you, I can see family too, which is a very cool thing.
Well, let's talk offline about that. And it's been great talking to you, and anybody else that's listening, reach out to either of us, I guess. And if you want to take your recovery or your trauma healing to the next level, I think that's what you and I are both up to.
Yeah. I mean, the more people we can help, or if
you're doing shit you don't want to do.
That, yes. Let's talk about that for a second.
You might want to get this book. It's a pretty good title, but the only better title is When I Stopped Fighting, which is in behind. Mine is more about stop doing shit you don't want to do because your trauma is making you do it. Right? I think yours is more about looking at the ways. The choosing to be more conscious about the way I'm behaving in the world, right? Would you say that is what your book is about?
Yeah, I would say that's true. It's this one has a lot to do with my story, but it has everything to do with sharing my story so that I can, help people potentially relate to that story and maybe want to help themselves.
Yeah. Beautiful. Both of our books are about, we used to be rotten pricks and now we're less so.
We're not the biggest assholes that we used to be. Yeah.
We're improved assholes. All right. So on that note.
Yeah. No, thanks, Bob. I appreciate it, man. Great to see you. And I'm going to shoot you a text prior to this weekend and make sure that I get my ass to that May one might work out well. I don't know exactly the dates yet, but May's a pretty decent month for me, I think, so far. So, yeah, I will definitely be there because I want to talk about it in the next podcast we do, whether it's yours or mine again.
Yep. And it's a growing movement too. So I want you to come and get a taste of it. I think you're gonna go, yes. All right.
I'm sure I'll love it. I'll love it and I'll hate it, but then I'll love it.
Oh, you will hate it at first.
Like all this growing stuff.
Oh, a lot of touchy-feely shit up front.
Oh, Lordy.
Oh.
All right.
See you,
all right, man. Sounds good. Thanks, Bob. Talk to you later.
If you've enjoyed When I Stopped Fighting the podcast, please check out my books and my journals on my website, DarylDittmer.com. Enjoy a 15% discount by using the code PODCAST, DARYLDITTMER.com.